Point B says, what makes affirming others difficult? Overthinking. We often think affirmations have to be stated with big, flowing words. The act of trying to express our love for someone matters more than how we actually do it. So even just if you're stumbling or you're not quite sure what to say, a card might do it. We should be cheering for those we love, like we cheer for our favorite sports team. Yelling one word, I like this, yelling one word of encouragement over and over again is better than saying nothing at all. I believe in you, I believe in you. If you're short of words, but that's the only thing that you can say when the person is nervous about something, I believe in you, that also will stick in their head and they will hear those words over and over again. So it doesn't have to be glamorous.
Was a big one for me. I circled it and I wrote my husband and my sister's name down here, and just last week, this is an example from my husband, it's these little unexpected, not big flowing ones that mean the most to me. We were sitting down having something to eat for dinner, and out of the blue, we weren't talking about, I don't even know where it came from. My husband just said, you know what, I'm so proud of you. That was like, I'm like, wow. I mean, it really stuck with me. And so those and that was it. And then he it was like, turned right down, so you again, not like, come on, give me some more. He was done.
So do pop them in there is what you're saying. That's good.
It was so unexpected. It had nothing to do with, I don't even know what prompted it.
That's really good.
Yeah. My sister will do that. And sometimes I'll do that with my husband. We'll be going to sleep at night and I don't know why, just as I lay my head on the pillow, I might roll over and say, you're such a good man. And he'll be like, what? But he likes it, and so I think some of those unexpected ones are the most powerful for me.
Yeah. I often tell parents who are struggling with their kids that, put a little note in their backpack, especially if you've had a really rough night with them or in their lunchbox. I used to do that with my girls all the time, especially if we had had an argument the night before and we hadn't been able to resolve it, or I felt really bad about something that I had said to them. It would just break the ice, and when they came home, then we could sit down, we could really talk about it, hash it out, and sometimes we lose sight of those little things that we can do.
You're right.
That's great.
Yep. When I transitioned from house parenting, so that means we lived where we worked and worked where we lived, so there was never really leaving the house except for some meetings. My kids saw my husband and I often interacting with one another, and now the last 2 years, I've left the house every day of the week, sometimes on the weekend for different things. And my kids commented after about our first year into this new phase, Mommy, you stopped leaving notes on the table. So they were missing me, and I would leave notes, and some of it was a to-do checklist because, they're getting bigger and I'm not there now to pick up everything after them. And it made them feel a little grown up. I thought it would make them nervous, but they felt pretty grown up, like I'm helping Mom by getting all this stuff done. But I would always say, I love you to the moon and back, or I'll be thinking about you all day. So it was those words of affirmation along with the list that they look forward to. When you mention that, leaving things in their backpack, I need to start leaving a few more notes on the table. It's been 2 years and I can't remember the last time I did that. I know that they really enjoyed that. Yes. Mom's not here, but she's thinking about us even though she's away. And that's something that I think my kids need to hear. Yeah.
Well, let's move on to point 3. As leaders, and let me say, whether you realize it or not, you are a leader and you don't have to have a title. We've talked about that in some previous lessons. So we're all leaders, we all impact those around us. So as leaders, we are called to affirm others as well as accept affirmation from them. We can only begin to give affirmation once we learn to receive it. So here's a number of questions here. It says, what makes accepting affirmation difficult? There are 8. I'm going to go quickly and then we're actually going to discuss some of those independently. So here are 8 things that make accepting affirmation difficult. A, disbelief. B, self-doubt. C, lack of trust. D, hurt or bitterness. E, high standards, that's perfectionism. F, not accepting our giftedness. G, too busy to take it in. H, a lack of respect for the person giving it. Okay, I've asked you all to pick one and talk about it. So, Deanna, let's start with you. Oh, sorry, Ruthie.
It's on the tip of my tongue.
Let's start with you.
Always compliant. I raise my hand.
All right, go Ruthie. We'll start with Ruthie.
I'm going to go for the last one, H. When I first started supervising others in the workplace. I found it, and again, this goes back a little bit to me not valuing myself enough, but I really hesitated. I couldn't say, I felt so grateful for what they were doing and the good job they were doing. I found it so hard to speak it, because to say it made me feel like I was all that. And I felt that they would see that as just ridiculous, so that they would lack respect for who was giving it. And so it was very hard for me. And that was, I mean, I still remember the difficulty. Thank you. Just, I forced myself to do it. And the more I did it, the easier it became. And, you know, it's a good thing to do.
Okay, Deanna, what makes accepting affirmation difficult? Which one did you?
I honed in on hurt or bitterness. Just if and the other person may not even realize that you have that they hurt you, or that you are growing bitter. You may not even realize it.
Yeah.
And so then when they do tell you you did a good job, it just falls flat because of the emotional block or wall that you have towards that person. So even as I discuss it, just thinking how much bitterness and hurt can get in the way of even your own level of accepting some of the things that, and the person may be genuine, but because you feel that way towards them, you have a hard time accepting the things that they're saying about you. Good things, positive things about you.
Right. Okay. Norma, what do you think?
Ooh, I'm between two, disbelief and self-doubt, which I think for me are one and the same, because I didn't grow up with it.
Yeah.
So I never feel like I'm worthy of receiving affirmation. I've gotten better, but now there are times when I'm like, you know, I don't do this to get affirmed that I'm doing a good job. I do it because it's the passion and the desire that God's put in my heart. So sometimes I still struggle with it a little bit, because I'm not doing it for myself. I'm doing it to give thanks for what I've received. So still working on that one a little bit. But it used to be where I didn't feel, I've switched from not feeling that I was worthy, you know, of any value to receive it, to just knowing that I do it. I accept it, but it's more, let's give thanks to God. He's really the one that's deserving. But I'm getting there, working on that a little bit. Yeah.
It's an area of growth for me. I mentioned earlier that when people give me compliments, I don't know what it is, almost, you know, immediately I'm like, I try to discount it a little bit. And as I'm looking at the list, high standards, perfectionism, kind of with maybe some mixed in with self-doubt, which I know that sounds strange, but they really do kind of go together. And it's not that I don't think I deserve a compliment, but there's just something about it. I don't know. I have a hard time accepting it, partly because I don't want people to think I'm prideful. That's one of the things that's going on in my head. It's like, well, if I accept it, then, you know, am I going to look like I think I'm all that? Because I don't, you know, but perfectionism plays into that. I am a real perfectionist person, and I can use that a lot of times to my detriment. I let it fall over the line.
So someone will compliment you, but because you're here, but because you want to be here, you don't see
Yes, that.
the level of affirmation until you get to here.
Yeah, so there's that, you know, like I'm never good enough in my own eyes. That I am, my husband tells me all the time, my sister, you are your worst enemy. You don't need somebody to, you know, to be telling you, you know, just because you think it. You know, yeah. So yeah, that's a hard one for me. You know, as we get older and we begin to experience the difficulties of life, our thinking starts to change. You know, our enthusiasm, our optimism get tainted, and our dreams get tainted right along with it. You know, life's challenges often anger us, discourage us, or make us want to quit. And these responses blind us from the important idea we find in Pillar of Life number 15, which states, part of living a full and satisfying life is to dream big, take small steps, and work hard. Now, before we turn to our workbooks, which we'll do in just a moment, I want to talk about that point here. It talks about life's challenges angering, discouraging, and making us want to quit. And I want to focus on the wanting to quit. Because, you know what, our shadow would like that of us, would, you know, is there whispering that, you know, just give up. just give up. Have you had an experience that you want to share where you've wanted to quit? Norma, you're shaking your head.
Yeah,
So
most definitely. I will actually remember one time my daughters were 6 and 4, and I remember we were coming home from a Bible study, and I was so overwhelmed. Financially, we were really struggling. I had applied for public assistance and didn't qualify, and there was just a lot of stress and a lot of pressure trying to make all those decisions. And I was at the end of my ropes. I remember leaving Bible study, and we were driving home, and I was just bawling and crying and just desperate and just wanted to get home and just put the girls to bed and go to sleep. And I remember getting caught by the train here in town, and it was winter, and as we were waiting and seeing all the train cars go by, as I cried, my 4-year-old was sitting in the back, my youngest daughter, Jaleesa, and she said, "Mom, the snowflakes are dancing." And I was still just crying, like I couldn't process what she was saying. But at the moment that she had said that, I seriously was just contemplating just ending it all, just being, I was so at a bottomless pit. And I was like, I just can't, I couldn't do this anymore. And she said it again, and I looked over to my left, and I could see actually the light from this building, and you could actually see the snowflakes. At that moment when I looked over, it literally looked like the snowflakes were dancing to the song that was on, and the song that was actually playing on the radio was "I'm Trading My Sorrow."
oh my goodness.
And I just started crying more. And then the gates went up and I had to move, but I will never forget that. You know, I will never forget the fact that I got to that lowest part of my life, and a 4-year-old and God were just so in sync that it brought me back to a point where I could say, no, I gotta go forward. I've gotta trade all of this stuff that I'm experiencing on the inside, and I've gotta be able to let it go and march forward.
I love that. Now, the song that Norma is referencing, the words, I love that the song that talks about, I'm trading my sorrow, I'm trading my pain, I'm laying them down for the joy of the Lord. And that's not a coincidence that that song was playing, and even what you described, what your daughter described, and then what you described of seeing those snowflakes dance. Wow, what a depiction of the joy of the Lord, and
It was definitely.
wow, a way for him to show you, I am right here.
It's definitely.
I'm right. Oh,
I have immediately thought of a verse, and I don't know where it is that he sings over us. God does.
yeah.
And just he delights in us, and how much it breaks his heart when we want to end it. Yes. He delights in us, and life can get so hard that we lose that picture of being delighted in, because we don't have anything to delight in at the time. It's so heavy. But he delights in us. So, and he showed you that through your.
Oh, I know. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. That's
Beautiful.
yeah, it was.